Hello, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. This is Anachi Sasuke, and in this episode, I said everything completely out of order for my opening, and we're going to start with the Museum of Idiots, and I'm going to try to get to In Harm's Way, which says recent story on it, which leads me to believe that wasn't there the last time I did this. Interesting. I'm going to have to... I guess I could go back and check and see if that was there, but I also don't really feel like it. So, we're going to start with Museum of Idiots. I'm going to try to get to that new thing, if these are short enough for me to get to that new thing. And if not, I'll get to that on Monday, and then by Tuesday, we'll be back to SCPs for a bit. So, Hall blank of Site blank. Containment area for the Little Misters. Mr. Stripes. Mr. Stripes. Oh. SCP, alright. I guess the Little Misters are all going to be SCPs of some kind. So, Dr. Leon Red and junior researcher Powerless Shirt looked down into the testing chamber. Inside, a gaggle of doctors were probing, poking, and otherwise inconveniencing the poor little mister contained within. So, we're supposed to be doing tests on Mr. Stripes, huh? Asked Powerless, absentmindedly flipping through a data chart. What have we gotten so far? Nothing. Nothing? Nothing, tra-la-la? Did you even read the dossier? He shrugged and flipped through a dozen pages. Well, I tried to, but it was all redacted and stuff. Exactly! What's the use in someone who redacts the results of every test? Paulus dropped the clipboard into the trash can and looked back down into the testing chamber. The scientists were now struggling to take notes on their experiment. Hey, at least it'll be impossible to recover the data that details your miserable failure. True. You want to do something later? What was that? I asked if you wanted to do anything after we get... Oh shit. I imagine he's saying oh shit, but it says redacted. So, that probably just cost me my ad revenue for this video, but it looks like reality is redacting itself, so I don't know. Mr. Hungry, who is SCP-913. Mr. Laugh is SCP-1799. Mr. Chameleon is SCP-905. So, it was on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th meal that Mr. Hungry put down his fork. The attending volunteers looked on in confusion. What's the matter with you? Don't you want to eat? Mr. Hungry absentmindedly picked at the menagerie of food stuck in his teeth. You know, I've gotten a little bit of bad news and it's put a kibosh on my appetite. He got out of his chair and went back to his quarters satiated, for now. Mr. Laugh. The video began with darkness and the sound of a ha. Video fades in, and in the center of the room a clown sits ramrod stiff, apart from his lips, on a bright yellow stool. His fingers tapped on his knees, and occasionally his bow tie would spin. A rope was tied around his waist, and a dozen men were pulling on it to no avail. The clown wasn't going anywhere. It clicked off after a minute, showed a brief image of the Foundation logo, and left the room in silence. How long has he been like this? Ever since we reactivated Alpha 9, we don't think there's any chance of recovery. Well, he wasn't going to be much of an asset anyway. Store him back with the others. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Chameleon. Incident Report 905A. On September the 18th, 2000-something, SCP-905 was briefed on the possibility of being an asset for new mobile task force operations, in exchange for extended privileges and other perks specific to SCP-905, such as the privilege of socializing with other misters. In response, 905 rendered itself transparent and avoided coming into contact with researchers when they entered its containment chamber. When ordered to return to visibility, 905 replied, "You guys are full of expletive redacted. If you think I want to be recalled, can't you go ask Red or something?" Due to the fact that it's impossible to move 905, but it is unable to leave its containment chamber, it has been reclassified as Euclid and given much stricter containment procedures. 905 still refuses to converse with Foundation personnel, but communication attempts are to continue to confirm that it is still in containment. Mr. Life and Death, which is SCP-1007. Description: a humanoid which goes through accelerated life cycle when a key is inserted into its back. Date of evaluation: September 18, 2000-something. Status: not recommended for recruitment. Contained within Site something. How the hell would this one ever be useful? Dr. Atkiss. Mr. Brass. It's Mr. Brass, SCP-629. On September 18, 2000-something, while discussing recruitment to Alpha 9, Mr. Brass printed a piece of paper from an unknown device within its body, and then broke down to its individual components. Reconstruction efforts were successful, but Mr. Brass has politely refused all further attempts at recruitment, citing warranty issues. Mr. Brass can only click and jerk, a reliable friend to Kids Alert. It doesn't mean he'll always work. But the doctor's order is always a perk, makes it so that he won't hurt. Mr. Brass can only click and jerk. So when the agents begin to lurk, a fighting robot power to exert, it doesn't mean he'll always work. Boy, we made them look like dorks, stupid, useless robot, no kids to report. Mr. Brass can only click and jerk. The parts popped off just like a cork, rusted suddenly, wet as a port. It doesn't mean he'll always work. They thought there was more to be borked. They thought the doctor might be a good sport. Mr. Brass can only click and jerk. It doesn't mean he'll always work. Mr. Soap. SCP-1908. Yeah, sure, I'll give it a shot, Mr. Soap said, smiling from his slip-proofed stool. Not like Wondertainment ever did anything for me. That's excellent, said Agent Pierre. If you'll come with me, we can work out the details. Mr. Soap smiled, nodded, stood up, fell down, and slid backwards into his cell. Do you need any help? No! I got this! Exclaimed the sudsy showman as he attempted to right himself and ended up slip-sliding away into another wall. Ow! Fudge! Pierre watched as Soap failed repeatedly to right his frictionless form. Before too long, all he was doing was spasming in a pile of suds. Maybe you should come back later. Mr. Moon, who was SCP-917. On 9/18/2000-something, 917 vanished from its containment chamber. 11 hours later, personnel on Site Thoth-1 reported a humanoid entity wandering aimlessly on the surface of the moon. Attempts to recapture this entity, which was soon proven to be SCP-917, have been unsuccessful. Every time agents approach Set-917, it flees on foot faster than they are able to move. It is hypothesized that 917 may be living out of the Apollo 18 capsule. Containment procedures have been altered to reflect the fact that the containment area is currently the moon. Mr. Lost, who is SCP-920. Well, we really can't find him this time, Daryl said, as he squinted across the smooth Venusian landscape. How did he get to Venus? The probe's resolution isn't high enough to see him, and we've only got 1 hour till this sucker dissolves. Behind him, Agent Alias shrugged. Well, he's probably gone back to wherever he was from, she said. Oh. Can you turn us around now? I mean, unless you think there's something else to gain. Nah, let's go. Wait, is that him? You see him? What does that mean? Shit, that means I have no idea where we are. Dear SCP Fund, thank you for your interest in Little Misters by Dr. Wondertainment. We sure do appreciate your collector's spirit, and we hope you keep at it in the future, sports. Collector spirit. Tales of Mr. Collector. I'm not going in there right now. If anybody wants me to go back to the collector spirit, I will, but not right now. However, it has come to the attention of Dr. Wondertainment Litigerific Law Squad 6000 that you may be using your Little Misters by Dr. Wondertainment in a way which violates the Dr. Wondertainment terms and conditional conditions list. Please discontinue this activity if you wish to continue using your Little Misters by Dr. Wondertainment. Sincerely, Dr. Wondertainment. 054 closed the Misters dossier. He pulled one piece of paper from beneath it and stared. The containment procedures for Mr. Collector, his predecessor, were very simple. It was only kept separate from the other Misters for personal reasons. Mr. Collector missed his friends terribly. 054 wrote out a small response to the Misters mobilization proposal and pushed it out of his sight. Not recommended for further consideration at this time / future considerations depend on Alpha 9's needs. Dr. Wondertainment looked over the note leaked from Overwatch Command and strongly considered jumping for joy. Alright, the good doctor declared, spinning in the spinniest chair. We got him! Wondertainment pressed one of the myriad of buttons protruding out of the sexy mahogany desk, specifically the one labeled Clear Handicaps. Within sight blank, 8 men sighed with relief and got back to whatever they'd been up to before. The other wondered how he was supposed to get back home. Okay, so it sounds like Dr. Wondertainment pushed a button to make all of the Misters malfunction, and then when they determined that they weren't going to do that anymore, put them back to normal. Okay, so, Museum of Idiots indeed. Additional resources. That's not that long. It's a bathroom. Dietrich stepped out of the bathroom stall and headed for the sink. His hard-soled shoes echoed off the walls with each step, and the cool rushing faucet water broke the silence in the empty men's restroom. A quick splash of water to the face to calm his nerves a bit, and a long exhale later. He looked through the mirror in front of him and over his shoulder. Yeah, I know, I saw the email too. It's scheduled in 3 weeks. What you reckon I do about it? He paused to wait for the answer, but shook his head dismissively. Merle. SCP-1471. Seriously, I ain't having this today, understand? Don't make me regret teaching you sign language. Can you just be quiet for the next hour? He splashed more water on his face and dried off, careful not to drip any on his black tie or white Oxford shirt. His frizzy hair standing almost straight up, but that's how it normally was, and most agents could care less how their hair looks while on duty. Dietrich would much rather be fishing for bluegill in the cool Ozark lakes than continue looking at Merle's blank expression in that mirror. I can't be talking to you like this right now. Why? Because folks are getting wise to this act like they always do, and if we're still here for the annual exam, shit's really gonna hit the fan for both of us. He paused for a moment to look at the response. Fine. Just help me keep it together for another week, and I'll put in the transfer out of here before the appointment. But you gotta give me some space, Merle. Good? Good. He adjusted his shoulder holster one last time before exiting the restroom and into the hallway, trying not to look directly at Merle in his periphery, which was something he'd gotten quite adept at. Carlisle adjusted his jacket and walked into the server room. The technology center at Site 19 was impressive, no doubt, and to Carlisle it might as well have been magic. He toyed with the idea of childishly pulling a plug just to see what kind of chaos it might wreak, but decided that would be better left to somebody a bit younger and a bit less responsible. Dr. Hamilton was waiting for him near the north wall, idly tinkering with a loose socket. He noticed Carlisle approaching and stood up to shake his hand. Director, Hamilton said, welcome to the server racks. This is, well, it's not the central mainframe, but it is for our department. Carlisle shook his hand. A pleasure, Doctor. As always, the innovations of Site 19 is capable of producing are a wonder to me. Hamilton chuckled politely. I assume that you've received my inter-office communication then? Carlisle continued. I got your email, sure. What do you want to talk about? Your AI division. Is that another SCP? Nah, it's AI-AD home screen. I might as well take a look at it. Oh man, all of this is clickable. Ah, man. Okay, we're not going to do this right now. So, I saw some of your preliminary results, and I was thoroughly impressed. My technicians at Site 81 were interested in setting up a similar model and have a very rough prototype in the making, but some of the more nuanced specifications are foreign to them, I'm afraid. That's just fine. I know exactly who you need to be talking to. That said, I'm not exactly sure why you're here. You're a busy guy. Couldn't you have sent somebody? I enjoy seeing new things, Doctor. Besides, I was in town for other business. The moment Carlisle ended his sentence, Dietrich entered the room. He immediately adjusted his slouching posture and tried to suppress any amount of apparent surprise. The server room was about as exciting as the janitor's closet and about as frequently visited by the higher-ups. Nevertheless, it was just another Wednesday to them. Howdy. Dietrich expressed his normal, casual greeting to both. Don't reckon you two have login issues, do ya? Merle's visibly face-palmed in an adjacent reflection, an expression entirely ignored by Dietrich. Hardly. Hamilton gave a quirky smile. Actually, we were just discussing you, Agent Lurk. Lurk? Carlisle raised a brow a bit. That is not a call sign, is it? No, it's, Scottish. Pause side. Okay, so he's Scottish, he's not Southern. Used to be Malurg, but you know how Americans got trouble pronouncing things and such. Pretty much everyone reacts the same way when they hear it the first time. Hamilton nodded awkwardly. Right. Anyway, the director is looking for someone to help develop an AIC site for 81. Dietrich looked at Hamilton, then Carlisle, and finally a quick glance at Merle, who was pointing his attention back at the doctors. Look, I may quack like a researcher, but I sure as hell ain't one, sir. I just help the real nerds turn the pet projects into practical tools, tightening up the gap between theory and practical stuff, you know. Carlisle smiled. As it turns out, that is exactly what I'm here to discuss. Dr. Hamilton, if I may. Hamilton waved his hand dismissively. Go right ahead, Director. I've got a feeling that I don't want to be any more involved in this. Carlisle gestured to a side room and followed Lurk into it. He closed the door behind them and they sat down at the conference tables. Mr. Lurk, better to call me Dietrich if you want to use names. Carlisle nodded. Alright, Dietrich. I want to talk about your AICs and how they might respond to an invasive, wholly technological threat. He kicked back in his chair. Let us say that some aggressive technological SCP entity breaches containment somewhere and gets onto the mainframe for a site. They're threatening to lock the site down and activate the on-site device as such. How would one of your AICs handle such a situation? Well, Dietrich tipped back in his chair a bit to construct his words, ruminating on the problem for some time. First off, this ain't my division. I've just been helping folks get off the floor and into the field, so to speak. And second, I reckon it depends. AICs are like real folks. They think, feel, make mistakes. They just do it much faster than we can. But that's just it, ain't it? He continued, leaning forward. They think fast, and they're even faster on trigger, and sometimes both at the same time. If the bond's on fire, you don't wait for it to rain, right? Carlisle nodded. I'm really bad at this, but I'm gonna keep going with it, because accents are fun even if I suck at them. Carlisle nodded. In your experience, then, do you feel like the models we have available now are suitable for handling a site's day-to-day activities? I reckon so, but that's what they're built for anyway. What about combat? Dietrich hesitated. What about combat? Imagine, if you will, that an anomalous threat becomes apparent somewhere in the world. How far do we have to go until the AICs are capable of addressing the threat directly, attacking it and containing it, without outside direction? AICs gotta be trained like anyone else. Acting on their own takes experience, and experience can't be programmed. I mean, sure, your typical virus is not even on the radar, but anomalous threats are... Dietrich's eyes darted past Carlisle for a moment to view Merle signing a message to him in the reflection of the wall-mounted touchscreen. Before he could pick up on what Merle was trying to convey, he realized he was pausing for too long. Unpredictable, he concluded. It'll take some time for being able to let off the leash like you want. Carlisle took a quick glance behind him, looked straight at Merle. Seeing nothing, he turned back to Dietrich and nodded in acknowledgement. I see. Sir? Is there someone that the AICs need to contain currently? Carlisle squinted. He wasn't quite sure how to handle this strange man. He was knowledgeable, certainly, but something seemed off. Not necessarily, he said, leaning forward. Currently, I'm just exploring possibilities for my own site and for other projects. Other projects? Mr. Lurk, Dietrich. Yes, apologies. Dietrich, how suitable would you say you are to maintain these systems in the field? How adequate is your expertise in this area? He looked over Dietrich's shoulder to the server room beyond them. Additionally, what other projects are you currently assigned to? Currently? Just this. I've been bouncing from divisions and labs ever since I got transferred out of MU-13, but in the field, we got some stuff on the back burner having to do with mobile apps and the AICs. That'd be a good start for what you're looking for. Dietrich placed his standard-issue mobile device on the conference table. I know the AICs well, sir. I can't build one from scratch, but I can tune and tweak them. That is to say, I know enough. Ain't that right, Alex? The phone beeped and responded in a perky female voice. That's right, sir. Carlisle looked down at the phone with an air of curiosity. This is the 4th generation system, yes? The Alexandra system? Dietrich nodded. Yes, sir. Hosted right here in 19. The latest and greatest artificial intelligent conscript they've made to date. The old doctor lifted the phone. An avatar of a blue-haired young woman sat centered on the screen and smiled when it turned to face Carlisle. Good afternoon, Dr. Atkiss. Or Actus. The vocal synthesis Carlisle considered was very good. It is a pleasure to finally meet you. Carlisle addressed Dietrich. This can hear me. Sure can, Alexandra replied, blinking a notification light. I am integrated into all of the hardware designed for these devices, and have access to whatever utility I want to use, whenever I need to use it. Cameras, microphones, lasers... She laughed. Okay, maybe not lasers, but... Excuse you. Sorry, stuff falling. But I'm sure they're working on that, too. Plate, can you stop? Okay, thanks. Fascinating, Carlisle said, mulling the object over in his hands. This is far superior to the access system running at Site 81. Access? Oof. The avatar stuck out her tongue. I've seen the source, but that's pretty outdated stuff. Carlisle raised an eyebrow in agreement. Dietrich, if you're willing, I might have a position for you in the near future. That is, if you're interested in continuing your work with these AICs. I'm a round peg, sir. Jack of all trades, master of none. Dietrich drummed his fingers on the table. Kinda prefer it that way, to be honest. Don't like getting pigeonholed. Kinda like why I left MU-13. He then stopped drumming. That said, Site 81, it's a change in scenery, suppose. Why not? Merle nodded in agreement at the change. It was a blessing in disguise for the two of them, considering Dietrich was 2 steps in an annual psychiatric examination for being labeled as schizophrenic. What's your time frame, sir? Dietrich asked. Carlisle pulled a white envelope from within his jacket. It would not necessarily be for Site 81, I'm afraid, he said, sliding the envelope across the table to Dietrich. And the time frame would be immediately. Okay. Job opportunities. Wait, who wrote this one? Lord Death. That sounds fun. On Monday morning, Alexander awoke in his London apartment to the smell of burnt toast. Doesn't that... Okay. Assuming he was having a heart attack, the irony of this assumption only occurred to him later in the day. He rushed downstairs in an attempt to reach the telephone, only to find his 6-year-old daughter desperately struggling to make him breakfast. I thought smelling burnt toast was how you know if you're having a stroke or something. Not heart attacks. Why would you smell burnt toast if your heart is stopping? I don't understand how that would have anything to do with your sense of smell. Anyway, he laughed, picked her up, spun her around, and kissed her on the forehead before sitting down with her and eating a meal of burnt toast and scrambled eggs. Well, at least she can scramble the eggs. Alexander drew her a face on his eggs with ketchup, and his daughter giggled. He hugged his daughter once more before she left for school, then went back into his bedroom, disengaged the lock on the personal armory hidden behind his dresser, and started to get ready for work. He got dressed in his nicest black silk dress pants and a beautiful dark purple dress shirt before clipping his 2 standard-issue Mark 10 handguns underneath his arms in all their smoky black steel glory, and threw on a black suit coat over top. Then, after relocking his armory, Alexander went downstairs, did the dishes, threw on his thick wool dress coat, and set out in the pouring London rain on his way to work, as London does. He stopped at the small black coffee stand in this square across from his apartment complex, ordering his usual black coffee. What the hell is that? Which he stood and sipped slowly until he realized he was 6 minutes late for work. Alexander ran in the pouring rain down London's twisting and turning roads before he finally came to a stop at head offices, a small inconspicuous building tucked between a laundromat and a grocer. Swiping his glass security pass at the door, that doesn't sound safe, he rushed past the oaken panels and leather chairs, waved to the secretary, and then swiped his security pass again and stepped into the elevator, pushing the button for basement level 26, except for that last part that sounded like my last job. The elevator, well, except for yeah, I didn't have an armory. The elevator opened and he stepped out, rushed past the second secretary, and ducked into his office. With luck, nobody noticed he was late. He booted up his company terminal. Marshall Carter and Dark Employee Terminal. User ID 45678322790. Password Lucille 2009. Accepted. Welcome back, Alexander. Alexander managed to take another 3 sips of his now cold coffee before the computer finished booting, and he saw the blinking email notification in the corner. Not the usual crimson red notification, which meant a new contract was available, but a deep, sickly green. Upper management. He cursed and opened it. Alexander Fox, you have been requested in a meeting with upper management at 11 a.m. in boardroom 6. This meeting is mandatory. Do not be tardy. Thank you, upper management. Apparently, someone very important had noticed he was late. Alexander had apparently been the only one to take the words "don't be tardy" seriously, as it was now rolling past 11:17 a.m. and he was still the only one in the boardroom. As he wondered if he was in the wrong boardroom, the door swung open and an elderly man waltzed in. Apologies for my tardiness. I've been having a very busy day myself. And you, Alexander? The man smiled a wicked grin. How busy has your day been? Alexander swallowed. Very busy, sir. The man sat down across from Alexander. Should I be doing a British accent for this? It's been a while since I've done a British accent. Good to hear. No, that's the Scottish one. Yeah, I haven't done a British accent in a while because I did a lot of that when I watched a lot of Harry Potter. But I haven't watched Harry Potter in a couple of years. So I guess I don't have my British accent right now. Always, sir. The work is always interesting. Good. The man pulled a file folder out of his briefcase and set it down in front of him. How old are you, Alexander? 36, sir. Single father? He began flipping through what appeared to be a well-thumbed copy of Alexander's personal file. Alexander felt his legs go numb. Yes, sir. The man looked up from the file folder and pursed his lips. You don't have any idea who I am, do you? Alexander shook his head. You do, actually. My name is Skitter. Skitter Marshall. Alexander felt his face go pale. It had been bad enough having to speak alone with upper management, but a named board member? The Mr. Marshall. What would a board member want with a huntsman like him? Marshall looked at Alexander with cold, all-knowing eyes. Relax, my boy. You aren't in trouble. In fact, you've been working with us for quite some time, haven't you? Yes, sir. 3 years as security officer, 6 as a huntsman. You made quite the name for yourself. What do they call you in the field? Moss Man? Moss Heart, sir. Fitting, I suppose, but a bit too literal for my taste. What's your rank? Lieutenant, sir. Well, congratulations, you now officially a brigadier. Welcome to the big leagues. Alexander felt like he'd just been hit by lightning. Thank you, sir. Of course, you're the best for the job. Now, I have a very important job for you. In fact, they asked for you personally. As I said, you've made quite the name for yourself. Alexander was getting the feeling back in his legs. His usual firm, confident self was returning. Excellent, sir. May I ask who the assassination target is? Marshall laughed a false laugh. I said welcome to the big leagues, boy. In the big leagues, nothing is ever that simple. I'm afraid you're stepping back from the wet working department for a while. I'm putting you in charge of a storage warehouse in East Central London. You can choose 6 level 1 security officers to accompany you in your defense. Yes, sir. What exactly are we storing there, if I may ask? You haven't allowed me to finish. You will be defending a warehouse that contains 16 crates of anomalous artifacts and 3 anomalous humanoids in the usual comatose storage state. Then, Wednesday afternoon at around 3:30, the SCP Foundation will break into the facility, kill all of your security, and then kidnap you. On a freight train that was hurtling down the tracks at clipping pace, in a boxcar filled with unmarked crates, 2 men armed with automatic weapons sat around a makeshift table playing cards. What about Ben Affleck? He's kind of funny. Some of his older stuff, yeah, but his new film's great on me. Do you have any 7s? Go fish. Got any kings? Go fish. You have any 8s? Go fish. You have any 6s? Damn, take them. Hey, has Nick Cage done any recent stuff? I liked him in National Treasure. Nothing good. He just kind of went downhill after that series. Do you have any... Are those gunshots? Sounds like they're coming from the other train car. Get ready. Sounds like this train ride just went to hell. It was an early Thursday morning when 05 received 2 consecutive reports in his inbox that, to anyone else, seemed completely disconnected. To him, however, they told him he had performed a very, very successful trade. Incident report, Marshall Carter Dark Warehouse raid. At 3:45 Wednesday afternoon at the date of blank Bold Task Force Pi 1 City Slickers successfully raided a Marshall Carter Dark Warehouse in London, England. The opponent suffered 6 casualties and 1 Huntsman class MC and D operative surrendered. He's being held in cell block 3 at Site 19. A list of artifacts retrieved has been attached. Blank, 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 blank. 1 crate of weaponry including a World War I era Ross rifle with scope, 1 Japanese-style Tanto blade, 1 Russian Cold War era officer's blade, and 2 Mark 10 handguns. Incident report. At 5 p.m. in Paris, France, a freight train containing 12 SCP objects of varying classifications, including 8 safe and 3 Euclid SCPs, was attacked by an unknown assailant. None of the security detail defending these objects has reportedly survived. A list of objects lost has been attached. SCP blank 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 and A and B. 05 couldn't help but smile. After all, in this trade, the Foundation definitely got the better side of the bargain. Item SCP-4758 Euclid. 4758 is to be held in a standard humanoid containment cell measuring 3 meters by 2.5 meters. 2 guards must be posted at all times around the cell, and the room must not be furnished with anything more than a standard foam mattress without sheets, pillow, or bed frame, and a standard toilet. When being served meals, it is vitally important that 4758 is only fed soft foods and not given any utensils. As well, his cell must be searched twice daily for improvised tools or weapons. Formerly known as Alexander Fox, is a male of European descent. Records indicate that 4758 was born in Ontario, Canada in 1978, making him 36 years old. Brown hair and eyes, weighs 81 kilograms and stands at roughly 2 meters. His back is heavily tattooed in various geometrical patterns and shapes. After being captured by the SCP Foundation during a raid on Marshall Carter Dark Warehouse, 4758 was kept in a standard humanoid cell block until it was discovered during a standard medical test that he does not have any internal organs in his chest cavity and is head entirely filled with... Stop writing. A man in a navy blue suit stormed into the office of Dr. Gunnell. Who in the right name of hell gave you permission to move Alexander Fox? Dr. Gunnell suddenly felt very confused. It was standard procedure. We discovered he had some anomalous capabilities, and if you had read his prisoner dossier, you would have found that it said not to move him under any circumstances. Dr. Gunnell stood up, which we ignored since we discovered he had anomalous capabilities. Are you even listening? Who are you to storm into my office and start yelling at me? Navy suit flash security pass. I'm your goddamn fucking superior. That's who I am. Now listen to me very, very closely. You're going to burn that special containment procedure and wipe any records of any of his anomalous capabilities. Then you're going to walk me over to wherever the hell it is you're keeping him, unlock the door, walk away, and forget any of what happened here today. Under whose orders? Mine. Who are your superiors? He shoved the security pass into Dr. Gunnell's face. 05 command. Alexander was well aware what the plan was. He knew exactly how it was supposed to go down. By now, he should have already done the stage interview, they should have fed him his lines, and he should be working for them. Being locked in solitary confinement was not part of the agreed plan. Just as he was thinking all the brilliantly terrible ways he could execute the doctor that did this to him, he heard the door open. He sat up from his lone mattress and saw a man standing in the door frame, clad in a blue suit. Finally! About damn time, I've been in here 3 days. The man in blue nodded slightly. Apologies. As much as I hate to say it, we are a very large facility and sometimes we misplace people. Whatever. Let's just cut to the script and get filming. The man nodded. If you would just follow me. Interviewed Alexander Fox. Interviewer blank. Alexander Fox is a Marshall Carter and Dark operative who has been working for the past 6 years under the codename Mossheart. Alexander Fox, is it true that you work as an operative for Marshall Carter and Dark? Yes, I worked for 3 years as a security officer protecting their merchandise before I was offered a position in the Huntsman program. And what exactly was the Huntsman program? Originally? We acted as tour guides and armed escorts for clients who wanted to go on monster hunts. Eventually the program was phased out due to client casualty rate being so high. So then you returned to regular duty as a security officer? No, once a huntsman, always a huntsman. We were called that because we were the best. We took out anomalies like you guys take out test subjects. Could you give me an example? Example? Sure. Budapest, 2006, I killed a cancer. Big thing that kept growing more and more body parts on top of its already existing ones. We called him Goliath, cut him to pieces, burnt and salted the ashes. Hell, I'm still having trouble washing him out of my coat. That's enough. If you were so combat effective, why was the program phased out? Because monsters and cocky rich kids don't mix. Alright? So, what did you do after the Huntsman program was cancelled? We were all spread around various parts of the company. I personally was moved to the wet working department and spent another 3 years killing rich people in exchange for the money of other rich people. You don't speak very highly of your organization. Fox snorts, leans forward, slamming his chair to the ground. Why would I? Marshall Carter and Dark made a joke out of my skills. I'm a damned good assassin, but the work is boring. I want something with some actual meat to it, which is why I willingly surrendered to your organization. Sorry? You're going to hire me. You've been planning it the moment I got captured. Go ahead, make me an offer. I'm not authorized to discuss any of this. Then I'll wait here while you go check on that. Leaves. 15 minutes pass before Blank returns. We'd like to offer you triple whatever Marshall Carter Dark was paying you in exchange for permanent employment at our organization. Agreed. I only have 3 requests and 2 questions. Let's hear them. Firstly, I'm not one of your blasted SCPs. I've spent enough time in cells. Agreed. You'll be free to come and go as you please, like the rest of our staff. Secondly, I need an assistant. That should go without saying. Consider it done. Thirdly, I had a crate of weapons in the warehouse. Did you get them? They were collectibles, irreplaceable. We did. They're being stored in our armory. Excellent. Now, first question. What's the nicest private school in the area? I'm sorry, but why exactly do you... My daughter. She's 6 and an absolute sweetheart. Would you like to see pictures? Never mind. They're in my code. Just forward a list of local private schools to me when you get the chance. Alright. You said you had another question? Oh, right. Tell me. I've been dying to know. What exactly do you have planned for me? It was 7 p.m. when Lucille's plane finally landed. Alexander had arrived an hour before just in case his daughter arrived early. When his daughter saw him, she dropped her suitcase, let go of the flight attendant's hand, much to her terror, and sprinted towards her father. Daddy! She yelled before being gripped in a massive bear hug. Hey, sweetie! How was the flight in? Good! The nice airplane lady let me have 2 whole cookies by myself! Alexander laughed as he picked her up onto his shoulders. That sounds yummy! But you ate your supper too, right? Yup! Even the vegetables? Not all of my vegetables. I didn't like the broccolis. Alexander put her down and patted her head. That's alright. Plenty of time in your life to eat your broccolis. Now go grab your suitcase and say thanks to the flight attendant. Daddy wants to show you his big new house and tell you about his awesome new job. Okay, so that was a nice story. So that leaves Pythia's wing, number 1 with a bullet, lending a hand, the High Court with the magic army, I was not magnificent and in harm's way. So let's see how Pythia's wing goes, or Pythia, or however you say it. Well, that doesn't seem very long. Nip, 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 nip. Okay, it's kind of long, but it's also a story with a whole bunch of links in it. Okay, I already read that one, I just don't remember it, like, at all. Okay, quiet railway car. You want to bring back Omega-7. What did you expect? 10 smiled uncertainly. Not bring back, she said. Resurrect. In a new form. Better. The Oracle's laughter vibrated in the air, personable yet inhuman. This was not a good sign. Technically, 10 and her allies had not acted incorrectly by starting the Alpha 9 project without explicit approval from the rest of Council. Technically, 10 and 9 had come to see the Oracles together. The Oracles were each SCPs in the technical sense, but like all black box SCPs, they had no special containment procedure files. No one below the Council and their staff even knew they existed. They had no numbers, only descriptors. The Oracle 10 intended to see was the Steel Man. 10 said little as they made the long trip in the quiet railway car, which in and of itself seems to be an SCP. She gripped her tablet computer harder than usual. An alien moon shone above, and unfamiliar stars glittered in a black sky. They rode across the long salt flats of the in-between places, their destination away from the reality and time. 9 didn't object to her silence, and for this 10 was grateful. The black sky lightened, and the unearthly dawn came as they reached their destination. 10 and 9 disembarked and stood in front of the vast glass archive that housed the Oracles, a complex that hung from the sky like a spiderweb. Only the entryways touched the ground. The Oracle's white-robed guardians came out to meet them. They were ever silent with no mouths. Their left hands were golden chains attached to gleaming lanterns. They sound like holy dementors. Or Poes from Zelda. They led 10 through the halls of the frosted glass structure to the Steel Man's chamber. Through the translucent walls of the structure, 10 could see with some vague impressions of white-robed guardians moving like ghosts through the maze. In the adjacent waiting room, a blurred shadow that was her assistant, Salt, paced back and forth. And a gallery of shadows lurked in the adjoining rooms, other oracles which 10 had deliberately denied herself clearance to see. The chamber was an atrium on the edge of the complex, looking out over a lush valley too garish to ever have existed on Earth. Atop a low platform decorated with intricately carved ivory inlays, crouched a monstrous, many-armed Hulk. Huddled underneath a white and gold robe that filled the room to its corners, he had many faces, and each one was a mask carved from ivory, jade, redwood, and obsidian. The only other thing in the room was a single chair carved from the bones of a primordial beast, which 10 took. Welcome, the Steel Man said. Speak. The Oracle's laughter vibrated in the air. 10 said more. He laughed more. You're laughing at me quite a lot. Perhaps this is why no one comes to talk to you. I exist to serve. As with the other oracles, I am yours to heed or disregard as you please. Then speak. Very well. You were the newest organ of the Overseer Council. There have been an uncommon number of additions to this council in the last 20 years, your friend 9 being one of them. The Steelman lowered his gaze. 10 followed his line of sight through the glass floor. 9 stood in the valley below, on a mountain slope close to the bottom of the glass building. She was alone, leaning on her walking stick. Perhaps she was just waiting. 10 wasn't familiar with all the oracles here, which wasn't unusual for a council member. Even when you could know everything, you knew there were some things you didn't want to know. She considered and dismissed the idea of visiting one of the more powerful and more alien oracles. 9 had always thought different. She's more human than you are. The most human of all of you. We're all human, in the technical sense. She's your strongest ally. You realize the ramifications, yes? You are the only member of the council newer than her. I've been in the Foundation longer than she has. She's an exception. She was chosen to be an exception. 9 was unique. She had discovered the existence of the anomalous without ever finding out about the Foundation, had been recruited into the Overseer Council without ever rising through the Foundation's ranks. The Council had needed a new 9 and badly wanted an outside perspective. They have much invested in her. They will not be eager to admit their experiment failed, but you? They can get another archivist, just like when they executed your predecessor. Perhaps your assistant, Salt, or that exceptional director, Maria Jones. 10 winced. Then perhaps my foolishness will benefit another. She looked down at 9. Is she waiting for an oracle? She is speaking to one. Where? In the mountain. The Oracle of Earth speaks to very few, and not for long. She seems to favor 9. That is perhaps not surprising. Ten nodded. We digress, the Steelman said. You began this project on your own, with allies, yes, but very few. Why? I didn't think it would come to a council vote, Ten admitted, and that is why you are here now. Yes, Ten said, I imagine this is why you're an oracle. The Steelman chuckled approvingly. Tell me, what were you thinking when you chose to do things this way? I was thinking that it was better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Your immediate predecessor would have agreed. Allow me to suggest that this is why he had the shortest tenure of any council member within my memory. Ten thought of SCP-03. I'm not even close to that foolish. Indulge me. Do you know the last time that council lost this many members within 20 years? The Foundation's Civil War, yes. The creation of the Chaos Insurgency by rogue overseers. You aware of the precise details of their motives? Let me open that to read that later. Of course, the man who was 7, come now, come now. Yes, 7 provided their rhetoric. 7 crystallized their operations and provided the name. His rhetoric was, and is, very effective, as the large number of promising young recruits snapped up by the insurgency proves. It is true that 7 was unhappy and wished for a loosening of protocol, but 7 did not start the insurgency. In fact, 7 never planned to defect from the Foundation at all. 10 was quiet. You do not need me to learn these things. All the records are open to you. I've been preoccupied. Contrary to popular belief, I'm still human. Ah, yes. I imagine you have been preoccupied indeed. I would envy you were I human. As the archivist, you possess knowledge even the other council members do not share. Each time the world has ended, each time it was restored. One could even call you an oracle yourself, and yet here you are. His mask stared to the distance. I came here to hear your perspective, so how would you characterize the beginning of the insurgency? Her number was 11. She was possessed of far too much knowledge for her own good, even for one of you. What happened? She became consumed with a singular idea. She wished for the Foundation to increase its research into the anomalous. She was called the Warden. She developed many of the Foundation's early containment procedures. She felt that we were handicapped by limiting ourselves to containment without understanding. It was her argument that this was not truly containment at all. I see where you're going. Those do resemble the principles behind the Resurrection Project. 11 also wished for us to reclassify humanoids into a separate category. She lobbied for our soldiers and researchers to work with human anomalies as equals. Alpha 9 isn't nearly so radical. Perhaps it is closer than you wish to admit. 11 forced the issue at the Council, as you have done now. When the others would not be swayed, she and her allies defected from the Foundation. I would never consider starting a second insurgency, wouldn't you? Of course you wouldn't. But they might not believe that. All of the mass focus on 10. Pit the Foundation against the Global Occult Coalition. Who will win? 10 stared at the Steel Man. This wasn't the first time she'd heard the question, but never before so directly. Will you not answer? Well, the Coalition has a far greater number of active paramilitary assets. They have direct diplomatic ties with UN member nations, giving them freedom of movement through those nations. They are, however, hampered by their role as a UN-affiliated peacekeeping and reaction force. They have far fewer paranormal assets, but they are more likely to make use of them. We have the defensive advantage, they have the offensive advantage. But the Coalition will not come into open conflict with us so long as we don't represent an existential threat. They prize secrecy too much. This is all theoretical. It may be less theoretical very soon. What about the ORIA? ORIA? Or perhaps the Horizon Initiative? The insurgency, were it to receive a new swell of support, the Serpent's Hand, the Forgotten Sons, even the UIU with an influx of funding? I don't see... What if you provoke them all to move against the Foundation at the same time? Who wins? I don't know. We can't know. But you should be asking the question nonetheless. 10 looked down at 9 again. As if in response, 9 pivoted away from the mountain. She faced the valley and raised her walking stick like Moses parting the Red Sea. The valley rumbled with thunder, the ground shook. In the distance, a vast plateau rose into the air. 10 watched in astonishment. The thunder grew louder and then settled, along with the new forested mesa in the center of the valley. 9 lowered her walking stick and stood over the valley, observing her apparent handiwork. 10 smiled. There is another name you should consider, besides 11. Kondraki. 10 shook her head. I know 8 will make the comparison, but that's foolish. Kondraki destroyed Site-19 with intent. That's why he had to go. Then why did the council wait so long to order his assassination? What convinced them to finally act? I'm not certain precisely what you mean to imply. Of course you were certain. The steel man gave her a grin from his highest base. Ten turned away. She was certain, she just hadn't wanted to make the parallel. At the height of Kondraki's power within the Foundation, he had campaigned for weaponization of SCPs. He promoted the expansion of anomalous task forces like Omega-7, and why wouldn't he, given his bond with 408? He had begun to strike out on his own without the rubber stamps of higher-ups. The Council had feared he would start another insurgency. They had concluded that he was too dangerous to let live. That's another story. And then there were the other agents that Kondraki's death had silenced. What do you recommend I do? What you should have done at the beginning. Go to the others. Ask for their support. Ted nodded. What else? Expect this to go badly for you. For the first time in the conversation, all of the mats were grinning, and be very grateful if it does not. Okay. So the insurrection is a long thing. I'm going to get back to that some other day, so I'm just going to bookmark it. There were some other links in there that look like they should also be covered soon, but not right now. Number 1 with a bullet. It's a Dr. Clef story, so it should be interesting. But it's also a long Dr. Clef story, so I'm going to end this episode here, and that's what we'll do. Number 1 with a bullet, probably try to make it through all the rest of these, and then after that I'll go back to doing the SCPs and come back to this some other time, probably after October. So, this has been Anashi Sasuke. This was episode, let me double check, 33 of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki, and, oh, never mind, 34, and I will see you in the next one. Later.